First of all, let me just say welcome to the McFarland High School Performing Arts Center. We're so thrilled we get to be the first concert in this place. It's so exciting, yes. Really, it's not a concert. I've been calling it kind of a concert. It's really a demonstration. Because what we're doing for you tonight is we're showing you what we've learned over the last 8 or 9 or 10 weeks, depending on when your student started. So what you just heard us do is something I hope you hear in your house. That's just our warm-up scale. We just started with whole notes. We're going to do more of it in a second, but it's a great way to get started. I wanted to play some notes and get it out of the way and be started, and then we expand it and do more things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do that scale again, but it's going to change a little bit. And this is the kind of thing that if you send your student out to the basement or to the front porch or to their bedroom or the attic to practice, hopefully these are the kind of things you'll be hearing. Okay, so it's just a warm-up scale, and we're going to play it in 4 different ways. Warm up. It's a great way to start. You actually physically warm up the instrument, and almost always it plays better when you warm it up. They're kind of that way. There's metal, there's parts, there's things that need to loosen up. They play better. The second part we're going to do for you is called call and response. This one's a little tricky to do by yourself because it usually involves a partner. One person calls, that's going to be me. I'm going to say something on an instrument, and they're going to respond by saying it back to me. In the beginning, we're going to do just simply rhythms, and then we're going to change it up and add some notes. So the idea is here, we're listening, we're learning what the notes sound like and what their relationship is to each other, and how can we take that information and then produce it on our instrument. They don't have music in front of them. Some of them do, but not for this. They don't know what I'm going to play. They have a good idea because we have some patterns we follow. But the idea is listen, absorb, repeat. We'll try. This is going to be rhythmic, call and response, and then melodic, call and response. Go. Where you go. Now, at home, if you don't have except you can become the leader and make up your own patterns and see how they work. And can you repeat them? You can't just make up a super complicated pattern and call it good. It needs to be repeatable. And you notice I threw in a super tricky one in there because they can play things that you can hear. It's a little tricky. If I wrote that down for them and said, hey, go ahead and play this, it might not sound the same. So then we're going to transition now into melodies. So we've learned rhythms, what they sound like and how to repeat them. Basic melodies, and you notice those melodies were just note, note, note. They didn't have rhythm attached to them. So the next step was we learned songs. And we've got 5 songs or 6 songs basically that we know from memory. You might use the word wrote, and we learned it exactly what we just did now. I sang it, they sang it. We're gonna hear that later. I played it, they played it. And we did bit by bit, and the next thing you know, we've got a whole melody. So we're gonna hit some favorites that everybody knows, you'll recognize them. Once again, hopefully, you've been hearing these from the room where they practice. Hopefully. So you'll recognize, I'm not going to announce the titles, you'll recognize them right away. What we are going to do is each section of the band is going to stand up, except for those who can't, and they're going to play by themselves first, and then the whole band will play. So you'll get a kind of a sampling of what all the different instruments sound like together. Okay, so we'll start with flutes. And oboe. So in case you missed it, the groups you just heard, first we started with Hot Cross Buns as the first melody. I think you recognize. Flutes played that for you, and oboe. And then we had the trombones play it, and everybody. And Mary Had a Little Lamb was started by the clarinet players. And then the trumpet players and horn players played for you. And then everybody played. So we're going to move on to the next group of people, which is saxophone players. So the last two groups of instruments you heard there started with saxophones, which included alto saxophones, and in the back two are two tenor saxophone players. And then the next group was a group of three. It was bassoon players on the end, baritone players in the middle, and tuba players who ended up in the back row. And we just played, what was that? Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or the ABC song, or Baba Black Sheep, or a variety of other melodies. The next one we're going to play for you just all together. No soloists on this one. This is a nice classic, Lightly Rode. So far, what you've heard from the students is everybody playing the same part at the same time. We would call it unison or octaves because the high notes and the low notes, but they match, they go together. The next piece is going to use that idea of playing together, but it'll be in the form of a round. If you know Three Blind Mice, you know what a round is. And so we're going to play for you a four-part round on Frere Jacques. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play it to you all together just one time, so everybody hears the melody. And then they've been broken into four groups, which I'm just going to go around and quick remind them of. And then we'll play it as a four-part round. So it's a nice introduction to what happens when the person near you is doing something different than you. And that's not as easy as it sounds. So this will be Frere Jacques. So we thought, we've been doing this concert for a little while. We thought it would be, when I say we, I mean me, because they didn't have a part in this, and if they got the choice, they would absolutely not do what they're about to do. But they're gonna learn a song right here in front of you. I haven't hinted to any of them what it's gonna be. Now, I'm hoping that if there are any older siblings out there, they haven't cheated and talked to their younger sibling and said what it's gonna be. I tell them not to, but I can't control them once they leave me. But it's a song that is playable by 6th graders. And we're going to show you the process that we go through to learn a new piece of music together. Now, eventually, yeah, we're going to start reading it on a piece of paper. But if you think about how do we develop as people, we start as babies, we listen, we mimic, we copy you back and forth. What's the first thing a baby can usually say? Their own name. Very common, right? We copy. And then eventually we try stuff out. And we try to make sentences and things. What we don't do to babies that learn how to talk is hand them a piece of paper and say, could you read this for me? That would be silly. So that's the way we've kind of started with our 6th grade students. We copy, we mimic, we try to create, and eventually we take those things that we know and we use them on our own. And then in the next few days, we're going to start, okay, here's what that looks like on a piece of paper. Could you read this for me and play it? So it's sort of a process that we're building as we go. So this is what we would do, learning something brand new together. So I'm gonna sing, they're gonna sing, and they're gonna be awesome, and you're gonna be like, they can sing? And then hopefully, they'll play a tune for you. Mi, mi, fa, sol. Mi, mi, fa, sol. Now we gotta play the whole thing. From the top. We'll see if they think they know anything. Raise your hand if you thought that was the song we were going to play ahead of time. Anybody? Yeah, you're all full of it. They don't know what they're talking about. They've been asking me for days and days, what are we going to play? What's it going to be? No clues. So if any of you out there are 7th and 8th grade or beyond students that told your sibling what's going to happen, shame on you. Shame on you. Now this is where you 6th graders, you don't tell anybody. Keep it a secret, otherwise I can learn something new myself. We haven't yet taken a second to feature students in the percussion section, and the reason I waited towards the end here is that they're going to play different instruments. They've been all along playing glockenspiel, bells, xylophone, marimba, and vibraphone. Now we're going to have them move and play a little bass drum, a little snare drum, some crash cymbals, because this will be what it sounds like when a percussion section plays together. They're the only group on the stage today that has to learn more than one instrument at a time. So they're going to play for you hot cross buns. Go. Go. Just like we did today. Now we're going to wrap it up here in a second because we're running out of stuff that we know how to do. But let me just tell you that and I'm not making this up, every adult that I come in contact to or I ever talk about concerts, I always tell them which one's my favorite, and you're at it right now. Because it's so exciting and interesting and fun and thrilling to watch what happens in the beginning times. Because every student up here, almost to a person, they didn't know anything about their instrument when they walked in the first time. For some of them, that was August 7th. That's not that long ago. For some of them, it was not until school started. And they've made some massive strides in that short amount of time. It blows me over that that's what we just did. We couldn't do anything, and now we can do something. But here's what's great about that. In February, we're going to do a performance called Bandorama. It's for all the bands in 6th grade through 12th grade here in McFarland. You're not going to think it's the same students. The distance we've traveled so far from nothing to something is amazing, but the distance we travel from today until February will knock you over. And it is so exciting to be a part of that and get to watch them and help them in that journey. I would be remiss if I pretended for 1 second that this is something I do. I have 2 fabulous colleagues I get to work with daily. Joe Hartson's manning the camera back there. Ben Peterson is probably sitting over on the side watching it all happen. It should not go unnoticed that they do an enormous amount of work with these students, and they get to work with them in small groups all the time, and it is awesome that we can do that. And I would also be silly if I didn't say for a moment that we don't get to do any of this if we don't have the support of the administrators that we have here who are somewhere in the room. I think Aaron's here somewhere. Aaron Tarnott's our principal at the high school. It is a thrill and a joy every day to come to work at the middle school, and I hope you're sensing that now that your students have been there a bit. It's a fabulous place, and the staff, they love the kids and they love working with each other, and this is some of the results of that. So we hope you're enjoying that as you are on this journey. So we're going to finish our concert by playing Hot Cross Buns again. We're going to play it twice. It's so awesome. But not just Hot Cross Buns. The next step, music isn't just melody. It has harmony, it has rhythm, it has sometimes a bass line. So that's what we're going to give you. We've got melody players, We've got people playing a harmony part, a bass line, and the percussionists are going to play a variety of instruments in the percussion section. So this is one last time, hot cross buns for you, twice through, with all the accoutrements. We leave in the reverse order that we came. So, actually, we start with percussion, and you're going to put your mouth as some other words. Right through it, and then percussion goes off, and then two of the pairs come one through, roll on back. So go ahead and make your way. Do that. Roll on back. Hold on your toes.